All right, Pearl Jam versus the second album by Pearl Jam, released in October 1993 through Epic Records after a relentless touring schedule in support of their first album, 10. Pearl Jam headed into the studio in early 93, facing the challenge of following up the very commercially successful debut. The verses featured a more raw, aggressive sound compared to the previous release. It was the first collaboration with producer Brendan O'Brien and with their new drummer Dave Abruzzese, who took over on the tour from 10, from the original drummer who left.
Well, you know what? In all these podcasts, pretty much when you say somebody's name, you get it wrong. And then the hardest possible name to pronounce ever in the history of the world, you nail first time through with Dave Abruzzese. Do go on.
I've always known that one, though. You've ruined it now. So Pearl Jam made a conscious decision, beginning with the release of Verses, to scale back its commercial efforts. We pulled back after the second record pretty hard, stated. A lot of it had to do with being in the eye of the storm and not being able to think straight. The band declined to produce music videos after the very successful Jeremy and opted to give fewer interviews as well as make fewer television appearances. 10 years from now, Ament said, "I don't want people to remember our songs as videos." Yeah. So what? They sold like 10 million albums or something with 10, their first album?
Sure. Big album. Big album.
And then they stopped releasing videos because didn't want to be famous. There's a story that Eddie Vedder was walking along the beach one day and he saw some kids were camping on the beach. They had a ghetto blaster and they were playing Black, and he ran up to them and started screaming, "Stop playing that song!" because he didn't want it to be a big hit and have them make too much money and be too famous.
Hadn't heard that one. Hadn't heard that one.
But you've heard all this stuff about Pearl Jam, and like you got Jeff Ament here saying they're pulling away from videos and just not wanting to do the fame thing.
Absolutely. But look, no matter what they did, 10 was a huge smash hit debut record, right? Big time. Pearl Jam. Everybody knows Pearl Jam. And then the second album, I think in the first week, sold 1 million copies. So Versus sold 1 million copies in the first week. And this is, to this day, this is peak Pearl Jam, right? Versus it's up there. I mean, my opinion, there's, I like other albums better than Versus. But I think when you say Pearl Jam, this is Pearl Jam, right? This is everything good about that band. Vedder's in fine form. They got a kick-ass drummer. All members were still writing songs, but it was still the Stone and Jeff were doing the music, and Vedder was coming in and laying his shit on top. And it's a classic, right? You can't argue. Versus is a supreme record.
So it says, they sold a bajillion records, something 7 times platinum. So that's 7 million records in the United States. Topics on the album include child abuse, daughter, gun culture, glorified G, police racism, WMA, the media, blood, daughter, dissident, and elderly woman behind the counter in a small town are 3 storytelling songs. Daughter tells the story of a child who was abused by her parents because they do not understand her learning disability. Dissident tells the story of a woman who takes in a political fugitive. Elderly woman is about an elderly woman. That's the title of the song, really, isn't it?
You know what, though? Like all that stuff, I don't care what they're about, really. I think Versus is just great tones and sounds and emotion. I never really thought ever that Daughter was about a child with learning disabilities.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about, but I'm in the car singing "Don't Call Me Daughter" at the top of my lungs, and I don't care what he's singing about. It's just a good track.
I just thought it's weird the 25-year-old man is saying, "Don't call me daughter."
Although I was saying
maybe his parents were dressing him up in skirts.
Maybe. But I remember reading articles at the time of, isn't it wonderful that this man can sing from a woman's perspective? And I, again, thought, that's great, but that's not what I got out of it. I wasn't listening to it, singing along like I needed the woman's perspective. But it's a classic song.
This is one of those albums that, like, I don't know if I picked up the meaning of the songs from listening to them, or the fact that probably more likely this was such a big album, everybody talked about, like every article printed was about what each song was about, and all the interviews and things. And you hear about, like, Glorified G was Stone Gossard bought a gun and brought it to the studio.
No, it was the drummer.
Like that.
It was Abrazizi had a gun.
I think it was Stone.
No, mate. It was the drummer. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, no, you're right. Inspired by an incident that involved a Bruiseasy telling the band he just bought 2 guns. So that sparked a conversation about gun control within the band, which kind of translates to Eddie Vedder had a hissy fit. I was watching it. I was watching like interviews with all about the David Bruiseasy thing, because he did this album. He did Vitology, and then he got the boot, basically, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And it's pretty much largely thought he's the best drummer this band ever had. He's incredible on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think WMA is like one of those songs that it's one of those rare songs you say the drums make that song. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he didn't get along with the other guys. And from those interviews, you kind of think Jeff Ament and Eddie Vedder seemed to be this little team that were controlling everything. And he seems like he was on the wrong side of those 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read, and I have been known to go down the Pearl Jam rabbit hole quite deeply. I have, very deep, and my understanding, I'm not in the band or in the know, but from what I have read, easy. He was stoked on the fame. He was doing magazine interviews and he was getting his face everywhere. And that was the complete opposite of the other 4 guys. They were more, as you said, no music videos. Let's pull back on interviews. And this guy, just that attitude didn't gel with the others. There's a stack of stories about how Vedder didn't like the guy and how, just always got on his nerves and blah, 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 broke a guitar that Pete Townsend gave to Eddie Vedder and ran off out of the studio and didn't tell Eddie, and all sorts of crap like that, just led to him being fired. And I get it, but I think it was that animosity that created some badass music. You can't always be friends to make good music. You needed that fire, that spark to create what is essentially a pretty aggressive album. Like you put it on, and a song like Animal, it just punches you in the face. There's no count in, there's no fade in. It's just straight in to the riff. Pretty badass riff in A, and they just pound away. And again, you say, a song like Animal, with the meaning of the song, or it's them, it's Eddie saying, or it's 5 against 1. It's us in the band against the media or against the music machine or whatever it was.
I don't care. Like when I was listening to it, I thought it was about. I thought he'd been to prison, and maybe like to get along, he had to get gang raped so that they let him in the gang and get protection.
I've never had that thought about this. But what was I mean, look, Pearl Jam's a big band and we don't need to go into their history. Everybody fucking knows Pearl Jam. But for you, what was your first experience, not with Pearl Jam in general, but with Versus?
I think I got given a dub. I got a cassette dub of the album.
Yeah.
And it was in high school. I listened to it, and I think I liked it a lot more than 10. I liked 10. 10 was good, but this was more aggressive. That was more up my alley. I was really into it. Same with Vitology. Those two for me, they are kind of pretty tops. I think this is the better one for me.
Yeah. Real cleanly produced too, eh? Like it's just real.
Yeah, they complain about the first one having too much reverb. So it's a little washy, but I like it. But this one's very much just a solid recording, isn't it? Nothing fancy. Just you hear the band. I hear it's just like their live gear plugged in, and that was it. Not much trickery.
Yeah.
Yeah, sold 1 million in the first week. Album's cover was a goat that Ament took the photo of. 5 Against 1 apparently is about them having trouble with the record companies.
You don't believe me, do you?
No, I'm just confirming, just going through this. I do find the Breeze Easy stuff really interesting, though, because I did watch a video on it. He had a really different take on things, like sort of his side of the story. And one was that he's a Texas guy, and these guys are all kind of California. So he comes in with a gun. The Californians are like kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
Whereas he's from Texas, you get a gun. And he was saying about all the fame and rock starness. He said he just tripped off to Indonesia and was traveling around the world enjoying being a rock star. And he said those guys were going and fighting Ticketmaster at the time, over ticket prices and stuff. And he said they were more concerned about the money stuff than he was. He wasn't worried. And as far as the rock, they accused him of enjoying the rock star life too much. But he said he was the one who had a girlfriend for 8 years while he was in the band, like one girlfriend. And he said he was the one driving a second-hand car when they were all driving brand new cars. He did break the guitar. But he said he was very sorry.
Yeah. I mean, but like Versus, besides all the petty infighting of the band and all that crap, it's a killer second album. It's it's another classic album. Like it's definitely on high repeat, and it's still, if the songs come up on my Spotify while I'm doing something, I'm going to listen to it. I'd rate it in, easily my top 20, if not my top 10. It's pretty kick-ass record for sure. And it, much like other good albums that I rate, it goes, it sits with good times in your life. Like my brother was the Pearl Jam guy. He was into 10, and I remember hearing it through his walls, like when he's cranking music when we were teenagers. And I didn't really get 10. And then Versus, I didn't really get either. Like, it wasn't until I saw them, this must have been 93, the MTV Video Awards, the Music Awards, and Pearl Jam played with Neil Young. But before they played with him, they did Animal on their own. And I remember watching it, and that was the first time I'd actually seen the band play. And I was just like, fuck, this is intense. This is wicked. Like you could tell watching it, that dude meant what he was singing. He was there and he was ripping it, and it was pretty sweet.
It was very emotional music.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was my first real, it was again from my brother, that kind of exposure. But then this record Versus became high rotation much later. Like I really got into Pearl Jam with No Code. That was my first Pearl Jam record that I bought myself, dug all the songs. That was the one after Vitology. Loved it, felt the connection. And then Yield came out in 98, and that was a massive record for me, end of high school. And I went back from that through Pearl Jam, and then my, the Pearl Jam phase that everybody has kicked off. And I went to Europe and did the whole backpacking thing, right? Left New Zealand, flew to the other side of the world. And this is back in the days of Sony Discmans, right? And didn't have a lot of luggage space. So I had to pick 5 records, 5 CDs that were going to go with me for my whole travel. Versus was one of them. So I must have rated it pretty fucking highly. I remember listening to it through all sorts of shit, sitting on ferries in Greece, planes in Sweden, all sorts of stuff. Versus was there with me, Dan. Was there with me. Said your name, you're going to have to cut it out.
Story sucks. Stop. Shut up. Yeah, carry on.
The fuck you, my story's over.
Good. Okay, I was listening.
That was my story. I just said this is a highly rated album. I took it with me.
Jesus, you took 7.5 minutes to say that. Fuck.
We're gonna fill up half an hour. You're talking about Abrazizzi and how everybody.
Oh god, we got
him.
14 minutes left to get through, and shit, we've run out of material.
And you told me to stop my 7.5 minute story.
It was boring.
You're boring. Read some more Wikipedia.
I just think Eddie Vedder sounds like he was very high maintenance. It was like when they went and recorded this album, they went somewhere. I don't know. It was too nice. It was too nice. And Eddie got upset and he was having to sleep in his car. No, what did he do? He slept in the sauna because it was uncomfortable. And then he took time off and slept in his truck around the streets or something like that because he wanted to be uncomfortable to do the album.
Yeah.
Seems like he's a very sensitive person and he needs to be in the right space and he needs this and that, the other, and probably a lot to get along with.
That's how he's connected with his emotions, and he can write songs that we all connect with. But yeah, I read they went to some swanky studio and they were trying to record, they did record all the songs, not in order, but they wanted to finish each song mixed before they moved to the next one, which I thought was quite a unique way of recording. And he found he just wasn't, so they'd have all the music done for a song and he wasn't able to do, he didn't have the lyrics or he didn't have, couldn't get in the mood, as you say, to record the vocals. So yeah, he was bailing in his truck and driving off into the hills or the woods or whatever and sleeping in his truck. And apparently he got poison ivy and all sorts of shit. He came back and did some songs.
I didn't hear about the poison ivy. Was he the original hipster? Because he was like running around writing on a typewriter in the age of laptops.
He did. He has a lot to answer for. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also, I never realized how short he was until I was watching interviews with him now. Like he's
very short.
He's 5'5". He's a little dumpling.
A little dumpling of emotion and vowels.
Don't cross him.
Yeah.
Powerful voice.
I
remember I went and watched them in Mount Smart Stadium in New Zealand.
Oh, is this another story? Is this going to have an ending to it?
You won't like this one. It has a conclusion.
Okay, go.
It was who opened? That guy who has an afro and plays guitar.
Great story. Ben Harper.
Yeah, you knew exactly who I was talking about. Ben Harper played. And I'm not really a Ben Harper fan, but I was like getting into it. And then Eddie Vedder came out and sang a duet with him. I think they did Under Pressure together. Mm-hmm. And Ben Harper's voice is pathetic next to Eddie Vedder. Like Eddie Vedder's voice is huge. And Ben Harper's, he basically whispers, when he sings.
Yeah.
But man, that was my first experience of seeing Eddie Vedder on stage. And it was just like this voice just booms.
Yeah. First time I saw them was Wembley Stadium and this would have been 2000. Yeah, the binaural tour, and dude, same thing. Little guy at the front, filled this massive stadium, and everybody there is just, hanging on every word. A little 5-foot dumpling, and yeah, it's good. It's epic. I've seen them probably 3 times now. Always good, but they are well past their prime. Sorry, Eddie Vedder, if you're listening to this podcast, but you can stop now.
Eddie doesn't care what you've got to say.
And
I'm apologizing for calling him a little dumpling. Hey, Go. That song, that kind of strikes me as a song that was actually written to be an opening song. Like the way
it was written by the drummer.
Yeah, yeah. It's written like it comes in sections. It's kind of like, here's a bit of the beat, here's a bit of the riff, here's a bit of it, and then it all just comes together and goes boom, boom, boom. Like, it was just written to be an opening song. I don't know if it's the greatest song in the world, but it's good enough, and it's a great opening song. And just the way I like the way it just sort of gives you the pieces and comes together, and then just kind of cranks.
Yeah, it's like we say a lot about, album openers. It sets the tone for what's coming next. The whole album is quite loose, with regards to the recording and the production. Almost every song has a little lead in or a lead out of studio chatter or count-ins or loose finishes, and that makes the record. It took it away from Tens, that perfect almost 80s hair metal production, and this is the new thing. Nirvana's out, a lot of other stuff, grunge is huge, and so this just went real natural and real rugged, and it works.
It's kind of like Animals, a much better song. Like, it's an amazing song, but if it opened the album, I think it's kind of like not an opener. It was a good decision to put it after Go.
Absolutely,
it's
how those
things come together.
Yeah, the track listing's good. Like it ebbs and flows through the album. It sort of continues and cements Pearl Jam's mellow album finishes as well. Every album of theirs finishes on a slow dirge, almost. You release off 10, and Indifference on this one, which is one of the most boring songs I've ever heard. But
yeah, I think it's
Eddie,
a good
Eddie,
song,
what chords do you want me to play, Eddie? I'm just going to play E and D, Eddie, over and over and over and over and over again. All right, can you play it slower? He's not British, I know, but it's 2 chords, man. It's E and D, and they just go. And he sings sad, and then it finishes. Just go anywhere.
I think it's, for me, I'm trying to sum up that it's Indifference is it's a good song. It just carries on.
You know what? If someone asked me how I felt about Indifference, I'd say, I feel indifferent. It's not good. It's not bad.
I'd say it's my skipper song. That's my skipper song. And I have to say Blood. I just think that's total crap.
So your skip count on this album, when you listen to it, what's your number?
Blood is a skipper. Indifference is I get through part of it, then feel like just go back to the beginning. Listen to Go again.
Yeah.
And Leash. Leash is
Leash. Drop the leash.
Yeah, it feels too anthemic.
Yeah, it is. It's Pearl Jam trying to be the Who, but it's, I guess it feels like a B-side that they decided to put on the album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just not as good as the other stuff. Rearview Mirror, brilliant. Rats, I love Rats. Rats is such a cool song. Elderly Woman, WMA. Glorified G also feels like a weird song because it's I think it's a great song. but so happy.
It's not tonally there. It's the tone's
It's like
all
an
wrong.
REM song. It's
Your
kind of
tone,
like
your tone. It's all wrong.
it reminds me of "Stand in the Place That You Are Now."
Yeah,
North.
REM-ish. Yeah, for me, look, man, I'm skipping 3 tracks on this album every time, and it's glorified gayness, white male American.
What?
It's just boring. You hear it the first time and you get it, and you go, great, okay, I get it. But then on repeat listens, it's like, oh, it's fucking tribal drums again. Just
I used to listen to that on repeat in my headphones and just go, wow.
And that's why we are judgmental, because we have differing opinions and indifference. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. What do you think of Leash though? Is it a bit wow?
No, I think it fits on verses. You're right, and that it's it's a bit too anthemic, but they were you could say the same thing about Alive off 10. That's a big, almost sing-along chorus, and they're looking to rally the youth together, to drop the leash, we are young. But it doesn't fit the rest of the album's tone, which is, us against them and
Yeah, you're right. Thematically, it's not in that box, and it's a bit major key,
But that's
sort of the
that's
same
how I feel
thing
about
with Glorified G. It's kind of this very major
right.
feeling.
Yeah,
but I
Glorified G.
Glorified G
and
pass.
Nah, I think Glorified G and Leash could have been, the B-side to a single, and they could have put something better on. They had lots of outtakes from here. They even recorded Better Man for this album. Better Man could have been in there. Crazy Mary, they had a stack of sweet songs that.
Well, Better Man, they
off.
didn't want to put on there because they thought it would be too big of a hit.
That's right.
What is it about this? He was going up on award stages going, oh, awards mean nothing to me, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm. But I guess, he came from that, well, at least, this is the story. He came from that real punk scene, didn't want success. And let's pull back. But let's look at the reality of it. They put out 10.
Did he?
Those five guys made a crap ton of money off that first album, right? So they probably could have happily put that in the bank and lived off the interest, right? And then they put out their second album thinking, we've got contractual obligations to put out a record. They put it out, and the first week they sell 1 million copies, right? This is back when you had to buy records, right? So even if these dudes were making, I don't know, $10 a record, that's $10 million in the first week. It's only a week, right? So of course you're going to be like, fuck it, I'm not making music videos. We don't have to, we don't have to do interviews. We're making bank, boys. Why bother?
I never bought it though. I always thought it was such a pose.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. I mean, look, I get the whole, they're definitely a band of the people, like their fan base is rabid. And if you're a Pearl Jam fan, it's ride or die. At least it was until like 2005 when things started going downhill and they lost fans and they kind of became the new Springsteen.
You're throwing down all night tonight, aren't you? Just trying to put everyone offside.
This band,
Bruce, I apologize. I know you're listening.
Bruce was good for a short period too, and then he just kept putting out stuff. The Rolling Stones, amazing band for about 15 years, and then they were just shit. Pearl Jam are the same. You have your amazing period, and then you're just spinning the wheels, right? You're just putting out records because that's what you do, and you couldn't do anything else, and you're too scared to stop. Stones. If the Beatles had stayed together, they would have put out shit too, I'm sure.
Did you say you like Blood?
I did like Blood. Yep.
Wow.
It's his blood. Giving away his blood.
to me, that's a song where it's just like, why do bands make great albums and then just put on this one terrible, terrible, terrible song?
Like
Blood. To
Glorified
me,
G is
Blood
that
is just
terrible
crap.
song. Really? Blood's
Yeah.
awesome.
Blood.
Blood would have fit better on Vitology, I reckon. It's like a spin the black circle, punky speed.
I thought it had
thing.
a lot of the same lyrics in there. There's stuff about drop the needle and all that kind of stuff. Elderly Woman. That's a great song.
Got another sneeze coming.
Mm.
You can edit that out.
Have you got COVID?
Probably. It's not going to come through the phone. I can still taste things.
We don't know that, Brad. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
Elderly Woman, such a great song. That was surprising to me. That was one of the songs that I just listened to a lot as well. And it's just acoustic song.
Great song, simple chords, but with, again, that little dumpling of a man can sing, and he smashes that one.
Yeah. So, okay, well, you're skipping 3 songs.
Yeah, I'm skipping 3. And, I'm sorry you don't like, you do like WMA, White Male American. This is where Pearl Jam started. I guess they did it on 10 as well, where they put in those little fluff songs that mean nothing. It's just sort of a musical side piece, not a song. And that was WMA on this record. Rats is great, though. I like Rats. It's a song where the outro makes the song of Rats, like cool little funky riff and weird lyrics about rats. And it's a bit off center, which is, Pearl Jam again are good at doing. But then after that's all done, then there's like a key change. And then it like riffs out to the end. Yeah. And I always love that outro. And they do that on a few tracks through the years, but I think Rats is one of the better ones for sure.
It's a little like what's that other song they did? Do the Evolution. The outro of that song kind of does a fairly similar thing.
I don't remember. I'd have to give it a re-listen. Do the Evolution is one of my skip songs on Yield.
Really? That's one of my favorites. Had that great video with Todd McFarlane did it.
Todd McFarlane, yeah. Great video. And when that album came out, I dug the song and I liked the little funky riff in there. But yeah, over time, I just can't listen to it
anymore. Daughter. I always like the song, but I would always listen to the drum beat and think, man, they've gone disco or something. It's like this hip hop beat or something, dancey hip hop beat.
Daughter? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Daughter have a dancey hip hop beat.
Yes, okay, I suppose I'll give it to you. You could do a remix.
We don't want to be famous. Here's a dancey hip hop beat on our acoustic song.
That's right. No videos.
No videos.
No videos.
All right, so how many cats meows out of 10?
Verses would have to be, look, it's a 9 out of 10. It's up there. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 for back in the day. But like now, with perspective on Pearl Jam, and you can pick your favorite songs and make your favorite Pearl Jam Spotify track list, I'd just give it a 9. A solid 9.
Yeah, I'll have to go 8.5 cats meows.
Oh, you're half point on both.
Even though there's like a bunch of skippy tracks, like when it's great, like it just overcomes. Yeah, and it's funny how one man's treasure is another man's filthy load of poo. It's hard to judge these things, isn't it?
I mean, it's not so terribly divisive though. Like if you put on Verses at a party, most people are going to go, "I dig this album," and then you and I would stand there and we'd both listen to WMA, and you would enjoy it more than me, but we would still both like the song.
Yeah. I suppose it's a thing like if you had a couple of drinks in you, Indifference would sound a lot better.
I don't know. I think you have to be pretty like angsty and teenagey for Indifference to really hit home. I'll hold the candle till it burns to my hands. Something like that. It's stuff that now as an old man, I do not relate to as much as I did back then.
Realistically, would he hold the candle until it burnt to his hand?
I think he'd cry like a little bitch.
I think David Brucey would slap him and say, "Stop being ridiculous, you fucking midget."
Yeah, I broke your guitar, fool. I want to be famous, fool.
Why would I break his guitar? I ain't never broken his guitar. Anyway, I kicked over his guitar and I broke it.
I didn't even know he had no guitar. Hey, yeah, I backed over to my car.
Yeah.
Yeah. All Bring back drummer number 2. Oh, is that time? Sweet.
Yeah. We're over. Rock and roll.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to Pointless and Confused. We believe there's a little thing where you can send a tip if you want. We have no idea how it works.
We need cash.
Yeah. For whores.
And Vegemite.
Yeah. And what
Good day.
No.
Oh,
I've got to tell them the other thing.
Oh, what was the other thing?
Subscription.
Look, you could subscribe if you want to hear the sound of our sweet, sweet voices in your ear. Whenever a new episode drops, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah, we're not sure how you do that either, but you'll figure it out.
We're new to this. Come on, you guys.